So I know I've ranked these franchises individually in my retrospective videos, but I've never compared them all together. These are the big three of the slasher genre. That fourth spot on the Mount Rushmore, that's always debated. Is it Ghostface? Is it Leatherface? I would probably choose Chucky myself, but regardless, everybody can pretty much unanimously agree that Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, and Jason Voorhees are the top dogs when it comes to the slasher genre, and they all have a bunch of movies in their franchises, and I'm going to rank them all here together. And opinions change over time. Maybe my thoughts on these movies have changed rather than the individual franchise rankings. And I also think it would be fun to compare them all together because we can talk about all of their number ones, their number twos, their number threes, and what franchises got better over time, what declined over time. I think it would be a fun comparison video, and at least by the end of it, you'll have a solid understanding of my sensibilities when it comes to these franchises. We have our ranking system here. Up at the S tier is going to be The Devil's Eyes. These are the best of the best. These are masterpieces of horror cinema and cannot be compared to. One step down, we have What a Rush, which are going to be extremely great movies, maybe not quite masterpieces, not quite at the top level, but still really damn good. These are like your 8s and 9s out of 10. Then we have One Good Scare, which I still consider to be in the good category. These have some flaws, they have some faults, but overall, they're really solid, they're really fun. Then kind of in the middle, we have Buried But Not Dead, and these are going to be movies that overall are not really great, but they have some good moments in them. Maybe they have some good ideas. They have something redeeming about them, but overall, just not that great. Then we have the bottom two, Don't Fall Asleep, meaning these movies are kind of trash and just don't fall asleep while you're watching them, even though you're really going to want to. And then down at the bottom, we have A Death Curse, which of course are going to be reserved for the ultimate trash of all three of these franchises. And I don't know. I'm trying to think right now. It's like, are all three franchises going to have one in there? I don't know. But we'll find out. Now, disclaimer, even though I think this doesn't need to be said, I'll say it anyway. These are just my own subjective opinions. This is not based upon what I think is ultimately the best movie ever. This is objectively, this is just my personal opinions about which of these movies I like. So obviously, my list is going to be different than your list, but if you want to, go ahead and rank yours down below or do a tier list of your own, share it with me, let me know how you would rank all these films. But with that out of the way, let's get started. So let's start at the beginning of all three of these franchises. We have the first Halloween, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and the first Friday the 13th. And I think that's how I'll tackle this tier list. I'll do like the number ones together, the number twos, and the number threes, and we'll kind of go with that way. Now, when it comes to the first of all of these franchises, I think, at least for two of them, it is the best movie in the franchise. And that, of course, is John Carpenter's Halloween and Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. The first Friday the 13th, I do think is a bit underrated, but granted, for what Friday the 13th became known for, most particularly Jason being the killer, it does not have that. Friday the 13th is a little bit more of a mystery. You see a lot of POV shots of the killer. You're not supposed to know who the killer is, and the fear is much more driven being isolated out in the middle of the woods rather than the fear coming from the killer itself, with Jason being, giant and imposing and unkillable, right? So it's a little bit different. Halloween, of course, really redefined the slasher genre and brought it into what we know it as today. And I would even say, even though Halloween is like one of the most praised horror films of all time, sometimes I watch it and I still think it's a little underrated. I'm like, this is so damn good. The way that Carpenter can build suspense, the score. I love the shots of just Michael stalking and watching in the background. That shot where Tommy's looking out the window and Michael is carrying Annie's body, or just, Michael just outside of the school. Just the creepy shit that he does. I love it. Dr. Loomis, great stuff. And then the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, is one of the scariest movies ever. Tina being dragged across the ceiling is probably my all-time favorite kill. And introducing Freddy Krueger, a killer with personality. But in the first movie, he's not over the top. He's not ridiculous. He's a little bit more terrifying than ever. So I think for me, when it comes to the originals, I don't think it's any question that both Halloween and the original Nightmare on Elm Street are going to go in the Devil's Eyes. And for me, this is very, very tough. They're very close. They're back to back. I did my top 100 films list. They're both in there. They're both right next to each other. But I do prefer Nightmare on Elm Street just a little bit more, but they're both masterpieces. Now, for the first Friday the 13th, I think it's really good for what it is, but just not what the series became known for, and not one of my most rewatchable in the series, because I usually do go for Jason. Although I like the first movie, I think it's worthwhile, I think it's worth watching. I'm going to put it in One Good Scare. Now we get to their sequels, Halloween 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and Friday the 13th Part 2. And here is where it gets a little bit interesting, because Halloween 2 is very divisive. You know, some people love it, some people don't like it. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is what I've noticed over time. It used to be I didn't know anybody that liked it. But now I think that it's definitely found its second wind. It's found its audience over time, and there's a lot of people that appreciate it, even though it is very different than the rest of the franchise, bringing Freddy into the real world and all that kind of stuff. And then Friday the 13th Part 2, I think, is actually one of the best of the Friday the 13th series. It introduces Jason. It has a lot of the lore, like, Jason building his shack out in the woods and his mom's severed head and all that stuff. The only thing it doesn't have is the hockey mask, but I think it has the best main character with Ginny in the Friday the 13th series, and a lot of great stuff comes from Part 2. So I would actually say that how I would rank these three together, I would probably put maybe Friday 2, then Halloween 2, then Nightmare 2. So it's already getting all over the place, even just with the sequels. But Halloween 2, I still think is really good. I'm going to put it up in What a Rush. And Friday the 13th Part 2, I'm also going to put there, but I'm going to put it above Halloween 2. And then with Nightmare 2, I'm going to put it up in the One Good Scare category. And yeah, we'll leave it just slightly behind Friday the 13th. I still like it. I still like the movie quite a bit, just not as much as the other. Okay, here's another interesting one. Halloween 3, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and Friday the 13th Part 3. All very different, but all solid. These are all damn solid. Now, once again, Halloween 3 is one of those that back in the day, everyone hated it because it doesn't have Michael Myers, but over time, it's definitely found its audience. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is often praised for being the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And then Friday the 13th Part 3, I've never actually been big on it, and it seems to be a fan favorite. I think it's kind of smack dab in the middle of two of the best Friday the 13th movies, and I think Part 3 is just okay. So I'm a little bit maybe in the minority on that one. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, I do love it. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic, and Halloween 3, I think it's really good. But it's one of those movies that I feel is kind of simultaneously overrated and underrated at the same time, and I don't know how that's possible, because it's underrated in the sense that it's a really good movie that people dismiss because no Michael Myers, but it's also overrated because some people say that this is an absolute masterpiece and like the best Halloween movie other than the original, or maybe just the best in general. And in that case, I'm like, whoa, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. So Halloween 3, I'm going to put up in One Good Scare. I'm going to put it towards the top. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. This is tough. I do think it's one of the better Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I try to reserve my S tier for only the best of the best. But you know what? Let's throw it up there. I can't put it above those two, but let's throw it up to the top. And then, Friday the 13th Part 3, again, I'm going to put it in One Good Scare, but I'm going to put it even below Nightmare 2. Then we get to the Part 4s, and really, they all have pretty solid Part 4s. Halloween 4 obviously brought back Michael Myers. It introduced Jamie as the main character, a whole new setup. Dr. Loomis is back. And then Friday the 13th Part 4, I think, is the best Friday the 13th experience if you want that old school flavor, because it's still early enough that they weren't super heavily censored yet, by the MPAA. It's got Jason the hockey mask. Jason's still quote unquote human at the time. It's got really good kills, great special effects by Tom Savini, and it still takes place in Crystal Lake at the camp. So I think it gives you kind of like the best of everything, right? Nightmare 4 is when they start to lean a little bit too much into the humor. I do like Nightmare 4. I think it has a lot of great kills to it. But Freddy does start to get a little bit silly. It's sort of when, Dream Warriors kind of hit that perfect balance. Like Freddy was scary in 1 and 2. 3, a little bit in the middle, and then 4 starts to teeter a little bit too far, but mostly really good movie. And then Halloween 4, just the biggest detriment to this movie is honestly just the way that Michael looks. The Michael mask on the poster is not the way Michael looks in the actual movie, and he looks so stupid. It's the worst mask. It's the worst looking Michael Myers. He's like all padded up. Like honestly, if Michael just looked like he did in the first movie, I think this movie would be even more appreciated than it actually is now. I still think it's great, but let's see where we would rank them. So for these 3, I would probably put Friday 4, Halloween 4, then Nightmare 4. So just given the fact that I do think Friday 4 is probably the best Friday the 13th movie, I don't normally like to throw so many films in my S tier, but I'm going to give it to it because I think it's probably the best Friday the 13th movie. Halloween 4, we're going to put in What a Rush right up at the top. And then Nightmare 4, I'm going to put in One Good Scare. I'm going to put it above Nightmare 2. I'm going to put it above the first Friday the 13th. We're going to put it there. And then holy crap, look at number 5. I think if you ask most people, this is the most consistently bad grouping of movies, with Halloween 5, Nightmare 5, and Friday the 13th Part 5. I'm a lot of a Halloween 5 defender. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Now, I don't think it's great, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not putting it towards the top, but I don't think it's as bad as some of the other Halloween films that we'll get here. I think there's good kills in it. I think there's good moments. Daniel Harris is amazing as Jamie. I think that Loomis kind of going off the deep end makes sense for him where he's at this point in the story. So I'm a little bit of a defender on it. Nightmare 5, I think Freddy is way too wacky. The kills are very goofy. The motorcycle kill and the comic book kill, creative, very creative, but just goofy to me. I do like the ideas that it plays with, though. Like, I like him sort of going into the dreams of Alice's unborn child. That's a really cool concept. And then for Friday the 13th Part 5, the biggest detriment is, of course, that Jason is not the killer once again. It is Roy Burns going out for vengeance, although you don't know that till the end of the movie. So the movie plays it as if it's Jason, but it doesn't have the best characters, that's for sure. And I don't like what it does with Tommy Jarvis at this point. So if I'm ranking these, I would probably go Halloween 5, Nightmare 5, and then Friday 5 for me. Halloween 5, I'm going to put up in... How would I rank this one? I'm going to make people mad, but I'm going to put it up in One Good Scare. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I'm going to put it above Nightmare 2. And then Friday 5, I'm going to put in Buried But Not Dead. It has some moments, but ultimately not a great experience. And I think that's where I'm going to put Nightmare 5 as well, or Friday 5 as well. Buried But Not Dead. Has some good moments, but overall just not good. On to all the Part 6s. We have The Curse of Michael Myers, Freddy's Dead, and Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. And I think this one is no contest whatsoever. Jason Lives is by far the best of these 3. It's not even close. It's not even comparable. This is the one where Jason finally comes back resurrected, kind of what we call zombie Jason moving forward. Tommy Jarvis is great in this. This movie's a lot of fun. The only thing bad about this movie is this is kind of where the Friday the 13th movie started to get a lot more censored, so a lot of the kills are off-screen or not as gory as the early movies. But other than that, this movie's a lot of fun. Halloween Part 6. Oh my god, dude. Killing Jamie off unceremoniously in the beginning. Then Paul Rudd playing Tommy Doyle as an adult. I don't know what he's doing in this movie. Dealing with the whole Cult of the Thorn thing. Yeah, but the worst here is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. This movie is way too silly for me. I've tried to like it. I've tried to appreciate it for what it is, but this is just not the Freddy that I want. It's not the Nightmare series that I want. I like the backstory stuff with Freddy as a human, kind of seeing what his life was like. But man, this movie is goofy. It's it just goes too far. It just goes too far into goofiness for me. So Friday 6 is the best here, putting it up in What a Rush. I'm going to put it just below Halloween 4. Then Halloween 6. I'm going to put, dude, it's tough. It's tough. I'm going to put Buried and Not Dead, but we're putting it at the bottom. Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, is going to be the first one that I put in Don't Fall Asleep, where it's just not good, but there's something worse coming up. So we're saving that final spot. Now into the part 7s, Halloween H2O, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. To me, I would rank this easily. New Nightmare, H2O, and then The New Blood. Both H2O and New Nightmare are fantastic kind of return to forms. I know some people don't like H2O, and it definitely does have that late 90s, early 2000s vibe to it, definitely coming off the wave of Scream. But I think this was the best return for Jamie Lee Curtis. I like this version of an older Laurie Strode way more than the Blumhouse ones. Josh Hartnett's in there. It's got some good kills. And to me, this was a perfect finale to the series. This was Laurie Strode facing Michael once again, this time going back to fight him one-on-one and ending the movie with chopping off Michael's head. Bam, Michael's dead, series over, cut to credits, perfect. And then they had to ruin it. But I still love it. And then Wes Craven's New Nightmare, to me, I think this movie is a masterpiece. This is a wonderful horror movie that plays on the tropes of the franchise, takes it into the real world, where the actors from Nightmare on Elm Street are playing themselves. Heather Langenkamp does a phenomenal job here. This is a demonic entity that is taking the form of Freddy Krueger. It takes the form of what sort of the symbol of fear is in human consciousness at the time. I think it's a really creative idea. I love it, and I think it works as a perfect bookend to the Nightmare on Elm Street series. You start with the first movie and you end with this one, or you could just watch the first and this one without any of the sequels, and it works perfectly. So for me, New Nightmare is a masterpiece. I'm putting it up here, and I know that this is an unpopular opinion, and I mentioned this in my Nightmare video, but I like New Nightmare more than Dream Warriors, so I'm putting it there. H2O, am I willing to say it's a masterpiece? Probably not, but it's really damn good. We're going to put it at the top of What a Rush. And then Friday the 13th Part 7, really cool idea. You know, he fights a telekinetic girl. Kane Hodder as Jason, you know, incredible. I met Kane Hodder at a Comic-Con, and he made fun of me for being ginger. It was pretty awesome. So I'm going to put this one in One Good Scare. We'll put it there. Now we're at the part 8s of the franchise. We got Halloween Resurrection. I put Freddy vs. Jason to represent Nightmare on Elm Street because technically it's a Nightmare and a Friday the 13th movie, but we'll just put it here for Nightmare's sake. And then Jason Takes Manhattan. All right, so with these three, we have one of my favorite horror films of all time and two utter pieces of goddamn fucking garbage. I'll keep this short and sweet. I love Freddy vs. Jason. I think this is a movie that delivers on the premise. It gives you all the goods. It has tons of screen time for Freddy and Jason. They fight multiple times. The kills are good. The fights are good. Robert Englund is doing his absolute best as Freddy. I love this movie. Once again, in the minority, I like this movie still more than Dream Warriors. So I'm putting it there, up in the masterpiece slot. Absolutely one of the all-time best. Then we have these two pieces of shit. I'll make this short and sweet again with Jason. Jason Takes Manhattan. It's basically just Jason on a boat. It's boring, uninspired. It doesn't really have anything to latch onto. The characters suck. The kills aren't very good. It doesn't really deliver on the premise. It's one of the worst, putting it in Death Curse. But it's not nearly as bad as Halloween Resurrection. This is one of my most hated movies of all time. I cannot stand it. It is the epitome of everything wrong with the franchise, where they had the perfect ending of Halloween H2O and they completely butchered it, coming up with this bogus overly complicated explanation about how Michael switched his mask with a paramedic and then she actually beheaded a paramedic, even though at the end of H2O, he can freely use his hands and he chooses not to take off the mask for whatever reason. He gets up like Michael, like he gets hit and he, sits up the same way. It's so fucking stupid. And the fact that they don't do anything with it. They just have Laurie Strode in the first 5 minutes get killed because Jamie Lee Curtis wanted out of the franchise, and then it goes into something completely different, not even bothering to even attempt to go along with the Halloween storyline of Michael killing his family. No, he could go after Josh Hartnett's character. If they would have connected it to the other Halloween movies, he could have gone after the baby from part 6, but no, instead they decide to just try to do what was hip at the time with reality TV shows and do a movie that's based upon that, with a bunch of characters that you've never seen before, that you don't care about, that are not connected to the Halloween franchise whatsoever. They're all stupid. They all suck. I hate this movie. We'll just leave it there. Oh, but then we get into the part 9s. Oh my God, the part 9s. We have the Halloween remake, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and Jason Goes to Hell. Dear God. I think I'm going to say the least bad of these three is the Halloween remake. I still think that it misses the point of Michael Myers. It goes into over-explanation. Rob Zombie, as much as I love House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, I think that he was the wrong vessel for Halloween. Probably would have been more suited for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But what I do like about this movie is, number one, I love the scenes with Loomis and young Michael Myers in the asylum. I've said this when I reviewed the movie, but I wish this was not called Halloween and it was just a movie about a psychopath serial killer child, and the entire movie could have been that. It could have been little Michael in the beginning and then, at the asylum. I think that stuff's really good. And I also do like the look of adult Michael Myers here. Tyler Mane in the role, he is extremely intimidating, looks scary, so that works. But gone is the mystery, the sort of the shape aesthetic of Michael Myers. Tries to give too much explanation. We aren't even introduced to Laurie Strode until more than halfway through the movie. And it's just a bummer. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity here. But I'm going to put it up in Buried But Not Dead, because I do think it does have some redeeming qualities. As far as the Nightmare on Elm Street remake goes, again, one of my most hated films of all time. I hate it even more than Halloween Resurrection. I can't stand this movie. It is just a poor imitation of the original, just doing the exact same things, but way worse. The CGI looks awful. I don't think Jackie Earle Haley, I think he's a good actor, but I don't think he was right for Freddy. Just makes him sound like a generic bad guy. The whole alternate twist of like, oh, maybe Freddy was actually a good guy, like but we don't need a mystery of if Freddy was actually a good person. Freddy is a child murderer. That's his backstory. That's his character. I don't care about that twist. They use the same end line from Freddy vs. Jason, Welcome to My Nightmare. A lot of the actors don't even feel like they want to be here. The dream sequences aren't engaging. The CGI looks awful. And just from like a filmmaking perspective, like so much of this movie is just super close-ups of characters' faces. I don't know if that bothered anybody else, but watching it to me was so distracting, where it's like almost every other scene where a character is talking, you're just super up close to their face. Like, dude, pull the camera back, for God's sakes. Anyways, this movie sucks. And Jason Goes to Hell. Oh my God, dude, Jason Goes to Hell. Also a movie that I hate, The thing about this movie is that I do have some respect for the creativity. Like, I see the vision, but it's not a vision that should be for Friday the 13th. This is the movie where they kill Jason in the beginning. He turns into a demon worm. He infects other people's bodies. He needs to get another member of his bloodline to get his body back. There's some bounty hunter that's supposed to be badass, but he continuously makes the most dumb shit decisions the entire movie. This is the movie that confuses people because there's a shot of the Necronomicon, which wasn't even supposed to be in the movie. They snuck it in. And ever since then, people are like, oh, Jason's a Deadite. And it's like, no, I just can't, bro. I can't. It's a death curse. But I'll give it a little bit of an edge over part 8 because of the creativity. But I still hate it. Then where are we at? Oh, the part 10s. Okay. At this point, Nightmare on Elm Street never made it to part 10. So now we're just going to deal with Halloween and Friday the 13th. We have Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and Jason X. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I can't stand. I think this movie is trash. Again, I respect the creativity, but I just can't, I can't get down with it. I think the movie is boring. I think it's annoying. I don't like the whole aspect of giving Michael this, you know, these dream visions of his mom. I feel like it's just not right for the character. I don't like turning Loomis into an absolute piece of shit. And Laurie in this movie is just completely insufferable the whole movie. She's just screaming and shouting, I want my prescription. Like, I just can't, I can't deal with her character in this movie. She literally gives me the worst headache of all time. Not anything against the actress. You know, she did what she was told to do, but the character, can't stand it. So many bad choices. Just awful. Just completely awful. Oh, yeah, not to mention the 30-minute dream sequence in the beginning. Awful. Jason X is a little bit of a different breed, though, because with the right state of mind, Jason X can be a lot of fun. Jason X is admittedly stupid. Jason goes to space, fights an android, gets an upgrade, but it knows that it's stupid. It embraces the fact that it's stupid. And, you know, it's not as good as Leprechaun in space, but it's a lot of fun if you have the right state of mind. So I'm going to put this up in Buried But Not Dead. I'm going to put it at the top of that because I think if you go into it the right way, I think that it is a lot of fun. Going to part 11, once again, only Halloween and Friday the 13th, although technically Friday the 13th 11 would have been Freddy versus Jason. But regardless, Halloween, the 2018 version, the Blumhouse version, and the Friday the 13th remake. So the Blumhouse Halloween, you know, is a very mixed bag for me. I think that it has really great stuff with Michael Myers, but ultimately I don't really understand a lot of the decisions they made. I don't see why they, you know, decided to reboot the timeline once again, only connected to the first movie, but then have Laurie Strode be way more over the top and ridiculous about Michael than she was even in H2O. I felt like H2O was a lot more realistic, whereas who she is in, you know, Halloween 2018, living in this fortress after 40 years of not having Michael come after her. And if Michael doesn't have an incentive to come after her because they're not siblings in this timeline, I don't know. Again, I don't understand why if they gave Laurie a daughter, they wouldn't cast Daniel Harris, because it would have been the perfect opportunity to have the two lead characters of Halloween in a movie together. And for some reason they chose not to do that. Just a lot of stuff in here. The humor, I think there's a lot of weird humor in this movie that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to put this in Buried But Not Dead, because it does have some good moments. But do I like it more? What did I rank this in my Halloween video? I don't remember. Do I like it more than the Rob Zombie Halloween? Maybe just by a smidge. And the Friday the 13th remake is good. I like it. I think that people tend to like it a lot more than I do, though. I've heard a lot of people say it's like the best Friday the 13th movie. And I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, it definitely got the vibe right. And they do make Jason a little bit more tactical. You know, he seems a little bit more human here, a little bit more agile, not quite zombie Jason status. The kills are good, but, you know, there's plenty of other Friday the 13th movies I like more. I think this one is pretty good, though. So I'm going to put it up in... One Good Scare. More than 3? No. We're good there. I don't remember where I ranked it before, but this is where I'm at right now. And then the final two, now Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th are done. And Halloween is the longest running slasher franchise out of the three, having 13 movies in total. Friday the 13th has 12, very close, which I still think it's crazy that Friday the 13th is only one movie away from having 13 movies. Gotta make that come back, man. Halloween Kills, once again, I'm in the minority here. I think this is the best of the Blumhouse movies. I think this movie is badass. It delivers on the premise of Michael Myers just running through Haddonfield, killing the shit out of people. And although the execution isn't perfect, I do like the idea of Michael coming back to the town and the entire town itself kind of going mad because of this, wanting to take him down, you know, accidentally chasing down the wrong person of the other escaped mental patient and killing him. I like how paranoid it makes the entire town. The score, the soundtrack is amazing. John Carpenter. I have a lot of fun with this movie. And this is the direction that I kind of wish the Blumhouse movies would have gone. I think this movie's great. I'm going to put it up in What a Rush. And last but not least, Halloween Ends, which was what a disappointing movie this was. Holy crap. You build the anticipation of Halloween Kills. You build up Michael on his rampage. You kill off Laurie Strode's new daughter. You build up Laurie Strode going after Michael at the end. And what does she do? Michael disappears and she just ends up living in Haddonfield. After she spent 40 years living in a goddamn fortress, scared of Michael Myers when he was locked up, now that she knows for a fact that Michael is free, she's just living in town, just all nonchalantly. I know she has guns in her house, but like, the fuck? And then we detour the entire story to focus on a character named Corey, who, you know, the town kind of builds up as an enemy and he slowly becomes that enemy. He has no chemistry whatsoever with the romance that they tried to do there. And I get the idea of how, you know, people's viewpoints on others can lead them to going down the same path of what you kind of judge them to be. But the reason why I don't think that this works as a parallel for Michael Myers is because Michael is meant to be this, you know, vision of just pure evil for no discernible reason. I think that's the problem that the Rob Zombie remake had, and I think that's the problem that Halloween Ends has, because you can't reflect Corey's experience to Michael, because Michael just decided to kill upon his own accord. It wasn't like a bunch of people bullying him and pushing him to do it. The fact that there's no explanation, the fact that it just doesn't make any sense is sort of why it's scary. And so that's why I don't think this passing of the torch of evil thing works for Corey at all. You also don't want to see Corey be the killer, and the entire marketing of this movie built up the confrontation between Laurie and Michael. It doesn't happen until the last 10 minutes, and it's not even that exciting. I do think the movie has some good moments, and I guess just because Freddy's Dead is the only movie I ended up putting in this category, I'll put I'll give Halloween Ends a little bit of a boost. I was going to put it in Death Curse, but you don't want just one movie in a category, so we'll just put it up there. But it's still not good, and I still do think these two Halloween movies are worse. But damn, Halloween Ends tried to be the worst. All right, so there you have it, guys. There's my complete ranking of the entire big three slasher movie franchises. This is how I would stack them all together. I'm sure I have probably some hot takes in here, maybe not so much, but let me know what you think of my list down below in the comments. Let me know maybe what you would have put in S tier, or maybe how you would rank some of them, or the ones that you would have put at the very bottom. But anyways, guys, this list was a lot of fun to do. Thanks for watching. As always, please give the video a comment and a thumbs up to help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon, channel memberships, and all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Other than that, guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.